Hi, and thanks for watching. Today's topic is going to be how to structure a contract to sell agreement when you're property wholesaling properties. So let's talk about what property wholesaling actually is. Property wholesaling is when you have a seller and you have a buyer, and you are the middle person acting as a property wholesaler, marrying the two, so to speak. And you're basically assigning the contract over from the seller to the buyer. And so with that, I typically have 3 contracts. And the first contract is going to be a contract to sell agreement. And what that contract to sell agreement does is it allows me to be able to exclusively sell the property or try and attempt to sell the property to investors or to whomever is interested in actually purchasing the property. This protects me in the event that an investor goes around me or someone else goes around me whenever I send the property out to them. So for example, if I find a property and I put it under contract and it's 123 ABC Street and I send it out to the investor. Well, if the investor doesn't know, they may just go directly and try and cut me out as the middle person. They may just actually go to the seller to attempt to actually purchase that property. And so that cuts me out as the middle person if I don't have it under contract. And in order to avoid that, I want to enter into a contract to sell agreement. So let's go ahead and discuss and look at the different parts of it. So as you can see here, we actually have the date of the contract, and typically my contracts are 30 days. And so within the 30 days, I try and attempt to sell it. And so I enter into the agreement. It says the parties, this agreement is between whatever the seller's name is. I have it indicated with an X, and buyer's name of my LLC, and are assigned as buyers. Buyers agree to purchase subject property listed below if desired. You enter the parcel number so that there is clarity on what the subject property is. Risk of loss. Property will be sold in an as-is condition. Again, I am going to be transparent with the seller and indicate to them that I am a property wholesaler and that I am going to be attempting to actually assign the contract over to a buyer. So I'm basically acting as a middle person. I am not a realtor, but I am acting in the capacity as a property wholesaler attempting to sell the property for them. So the next topic is what we're basically talking about, where I'm assigning the contract. So it says assignable contract. Buyer may assign contract if financing cannot be secured. So this is my way out, so to speak. So although I'm saying that I'm actually going to buy the property above, if something should happen where I cannot sell it through an investor, this is my out. Buyer may assign contract if financing cannot be secured. So either I'm going to assign the contract over to someone or attempt to get financing. And of course, we already know that I'm not going to attempt to get financing unless I actually want to purchase the property. There is a stipulation here that says that there's no judgments on the seller's behalf. Seller warrants that there are no judgments threatening the equity and subject property and that there is no bankruptcy pending or contemplated by any title holder. If a pending bankruptcy exists, the seller must have permission from the court to sell the subject property. So you're also covering your investor as well, because you don't want to enter into a contract and the person is actually going through a bankruptcy or a pre-foreclosure, because if it is, then you need to know so that you can act a little bit faster on attempting to try and sell the property, or so that the buyer can know whether or not they need to actually purchase it in cash, or if they even have the rights to do that, so that they won't waste any time or money or efforts. Defects, because we mentioned before that it's going to be as is, this is just a double covering of what we're actually discussing with the house. So defect, seller warrants subject property to be free from violation of any zoning, environmental, building, health, or governmental codes or ordinances. Seller further warrants that there is no material or other known defects or facts regarding this property which would adversely affect the value of said property. If any of the above exists, the seller must disclose all known defects. So it's no different than when a seller is actually signing up with a realtor, they have to disclose any defects, any issues with the foundations, any known defects with the heating and air, any known defects with asbestos or what have you. So the seller must actually discover or disclose actually the information to you so that you'll know in advance, and so that you have a better way to explain to your potential buyer what potential problems may exist with the property. So let's carry on. So expenses, this is letting the seller know upfront, because as I've said in many videos before, transparency is going to be the key. So we have expenses. The buyer pays all of the closing costs and assigner fees. I never mention to my sellers how much my assignment fee is going to be, because most of the time I don't know, because it just depends on what the buyer is actually willing to pay for it. So I'll shoot an amount out there to them, and they may say no, in terms of, let's just say, for example, if the seller is interested in selling the house for $80,000 and I attempt to sell it to the buyer for $100,000, then there's a $20,000 gap that's there that is an assignment fee for me. So let's just say when I throw this out saying that this house is available for sale for $100,000, the buyer comes back and says, well, I'm willing to pay $90,000. So that gives me $10,000 worth of assignment fees for it. So typically I don't know how much the assignment fees are going to be right up front. I have an estimation based on how much the seller wants. And we always want to make all three of us happy, the buyer, the seller, as well as the property wholesaler. So I'm letting the seller know up front that the buyer is paying all of the closing costs, and they're also paying the assigner fees. This almost certainly allows the seller to feel a little bit more comfortable when allowing you to try and sell it, because they don't have to worry about paying realtor fees. So now we have financing. This purchase is subject to the buyer and buyer's partner's ability to secure the necessary financing. Again, this is another way out for you as a wholesaler, because you don't want to be stuck with the contract. You want to have verbiage in your contract that allows you to basically get out of it, just in case a person tries to take you to court to try and get you to actually purchase the property. Licensure, transparency is again key. It says that the member or members of the above referenced LLC may or may not hold an inactive real estate license. So you want to be upfront, letting them know that you're not a realtor, of course, unless you are, that you're not a realtor, and that you will be collecting an assignment fee, not a realtor's fee. Acceptance, this contract is good for 30 days from the signature date with an expiration time of midnight. During the 30-day contract period, seller or sellers agree that buyers or wholesalers or buyers may advertise property to investors, including through private investor social media groups, and can show property during reasonable scheduled hours to interested investors. Wholesaler is not responsible for any damage prior to, during, or after showing the property. Sellers will refrain from selling or marketing their property to other wholesalers, realtors, or other buyers within the 30-day contract period. And it also includes a line about properties, whether or not a property is located in within a flood zone, which is also something that's important that a potential investor may ask. Let's 30-day contract period again. Within this 30-day contract period, you can set your own parameters. Typically, there's 30 days. I usually go 30 days unless I feel like the property may actually be a little bit harder to sell within the 30-day period, depending on what the market conditions are. So you can extend this contract to 45 days, 60 days, whatever you feel that the seller is willing to actually allow you to try and attempt to sell the property. So that's the first thing. Also, you want to be able to let them know up front that they may possibly see their home listed in some social media groups, maybe even some investor groups, but you're going to be marketing the property as best as you can. And that includes social media groups. That includes maybe yard signs, bandit signs. They've actually wholesaled for investors before. So they may actually see their own property within social media groups or investing groups. So you want to be upfront. You want to be as transparent as possible. And one more thing with the signatures, you want to make sure that you put the time and date stamp on everything. If you have multiple sellers, each seller that has the right or ability to actually sell the property must sign and date. You are going to be the buyer in this example because you will be actually having another contract where you're going to actually assign the contract. And so I'll be discussing in another video about how to assign the contract to the investor. If you find the information in this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions about wholesaling, flipping, or rental properties, please feel free to drop them down in the comments. I thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.